Iran's president just declared his country is in total war with America, Israel, and Europe, and he says their military is now stronger than ever. Here's what's really happening. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian stated in an interview published Saturday that his country was fighting a total war against the United States, Israel, and Europe, claiming they want to bring our country to its knees. This isn't just rhetoric from a minor official. The interview was published on the official website of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, which tells you everything about how seriously Tehran wants this message taken. But to understand why Pezeshkian is making this declaration now, we need to rewind 6 months to June 2025, when the Middle East erupted into what's now being called the 12-Day War, the June 2025 conflict. The fighting lasted 12 days and included airstrikes on Iranian nuclear and military facilities, with Iranian authorities reporting more than 1,000 deaths, including senior commanders and nuclear scientists, while Iranian missile barrages killed at least 28 people in Israel. This wasn't a limited strike. Israel, with American support, went after Iran's nuclear program with devastating force. During the 12-day war with Israel last June, the Israelis obliterated much of the Islamic Republic's nuclear capabilities with the assistance of devastating US airstrikes. According to reports at the time, President Trump addressed the nation on June 22nd, declaring that American strikes had achieved their objective of destroying Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity. The operation targeted uranium enrichment facilities, nuclear scientists, and Iran's ballistic missile program. Iran's response was swift and lethal. They launched over 500 ballistic missiles and 1,100 drones at Israeli targets, killing 28 people and demonstrating their capability to strike back even under sustained attack. According to Iranian reports, Pezeshkian himself was nearly killed and had his leg injured by an Israeli strike during the war. Why total war now? So why is Iran's president making this dramatic declaration 6 months later? First, let's understand what he means by total war. Pezeshkian argued that the current conflict is more complex than the Iran-Iraq war of the 1980s, saying his country is now under pressure from every angle. He explained that unlike the Iran-Iraq war, where threats were clear and direct, today Iran faces coordinated pressure across multiple fronts: economic, political, cultural, and military. The economic situation inside Iran is dire. Prolonged sanctions have crushed their economy. The Iranian rial has plummeted in value, inflation has surged, and ordinary Iranians are struggling to afford basic necessities. The regime is facing growing discontent from its own population, who are tired of economic hardship and increasingly fed up with their government's priorities. On the international front, things have only gotten worse for Tehran. UN sanctions on Iran, orchestrated by France, Britain, and Germany, have been imposed due to the regime's continued pursuit of nuclear weapons. These aren't minor sanctions. They're comprehensive measures designed to prevent Iran from rebuilding its nuclear capabilities. But here's where it gets concerning. Despite the devastation from June's strikes, Pezeshkian is making a bold claim. He said, "Our beloved military forces are doing their jobs with strength, and now, in terms of equipment and manpower, despite all the problems we have, they are stronger than when they attacked." Is this true, or is it propaganda meant to shore up support at home? Intelligence reports suggest the truth is somewhere in between. Yes, Iran took massive losses in June. Their nuclear facilities were severely damaged, key personnel were killed, and their air defense systems were destroyed. But they're not sitting idle. According to NBC reporting, Israeli intelligence sources claim Iran is actively repairing its air defense systems and rebuilding its ballistic missile program. The question isn't whether they're trying to rebuild, it's how successful they've been and how long it will take. The Hamas connection. There's another troubling development that ties directly into Iran's strategy. Hamas is set to elect a new leader who has close ties to Iran, with Khalil al-Hayya expected to take control of Hamas's political bureau. This matters because al-Hayya is considered closely aligned with Tehran and is expected to take a harder line against Israel compared to the current leadership. Israeli intelligence officials believe al-Hayya would push a more adversarial stance toward Israel and undermine any remaining ceasefire framework in Gaza. In other words, Iran is strengthening its grip on its most important proxy organization in the region at the exact moment it's declaring total war on the West. That's not a coincidence, it's strategy. Netanyahu-Trump meeting. The timing of Pezeshkian's declaration is also significant because of what's happening this week. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is planning to travel to Mar-a-Lago Monday, where he is expected to pitch President Trump on a plan to launch new strikes against Tehran. What will Netanyahu be proposing? Based on Israeli intelligence assessments, he'll likely be making the case that Iran is using this 6-month window to rebuild what was destroyed in June. The argument will be straightforward. Strike now while they're still vulnerable, or face a fully reconstituted Iranian nuclear program within a year or two. This puts President Trump in a difficult position. During his first term, Trump took a hard line on Iran, withdrawing from the nuclear deal and implementing maximum pressure sanctions. He also authorized the strike that killed Qasem Soleimani, Iran's top military commander. Now he's back in office and facing a decision about whether to support additional military action against Iran. The nuclear question. Let's address the elephant in the room. Does Iran actually have nuclear weapons? The honest answer is that nobody outside of Iran's top leadership knows for certain. Here's what we do know. Iran has been enriching uranium to 60% purity, which is close to the 90% needed for weapons-grade material. The June strikes destroyed much of their enrichment infrastructure, but not their knowledge or their determination. Iran insists its nuclear program is entirely peaceful and intended for energy production and medical isotopes. Western intelligence agencies are skeptical, pointing to the sophisticated centrifuge cascades, the level of enrichment, and Iran's refusal to allow full inspections as evidence of weapons ambitions. The concern isn't just whether Iran has a bomb today, it's about their breakout capability. How quickly could they produce weapons-grade uranium if they decided to? Before the June strikes, estimates suggested Iran could potentially produce enough material for one weapon in a matter of weeks if they chose to. After the strikes, that timeline was pushed back, but for how long remains classified. Regional implications. If you're wondering why this matters to Americans beyond the obvious national security implications, consider the broader picture. Iran has been designated as the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism by the US government. They fund Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, various militias in Iraq and Syria, and Hamas in Gaza. These aren't just local conflicts. They affect global oil markets, international shipping routes, and the stability of a region that remains crucial to world energy supplies. The declaration of total war isn't just aimed at Israel, it's aimed at us. Pezeshkian specifically named the United States alongside Israel and Europe as Iran's enemies. This is the Iranian government telling its people and the world that they view themselves as being in an existential struggle with the West. So where does this leave us? Iran's president has declared his country is in total war with America, Israel, and Europe. They're rebuilding their military capabilities after devastating strikes in June. They're tightening control over Hamas and other proxy groups. They're dealing with crushing sanctions and internal economic collapse. And they're continuing to pursue nuclear capabilities despite international pressure. This week, Netanyahu will sit down with President Trump to discuss potential new military action. The decisions made in that meeting could shape the Middle East for years to come. This isn't World War III, at least not yet, but it is a genuine, serious confrontation between Iran and Western powers, with nuclear weapons potentially in the balance. The regime in Tehran is wounded but defiant, isolated but determined, and according to their own president, already at war with us. Stay informed. Pay attention to what comes out of the Netanyahu-Trump meeting, and understand that when Iran's president declares total war, he's not speaking metaphorically. He's describing how his government views the current reality. This is a developing situation, and we'll continue to monitor it closely. Make sure and hit that like button, subscribe for more hard-hitting stories, and share with your buddies. What do you think? Should the US strike Iran again? Drop a comment below. Stay informed, stay safe. Peace out.